And welcome, everybody. Thank you so very much for your time and opportunity. This is Dejan Sneed with Subsume. Hoping everybody's having a good afternoon, evening, as it may be. With that, we just want to jump in real quick, and we got about 64 hours on our amazing campaign for our fantasy series, Sorghum Spear. We're actually having our new anthology, which is set to come out with some amazing stories from a litany of fantastic talent. All of that under the stewardship um, and and keen eye of Miss Sheree Renée Thomas. And I'm going to bring her to the stage in just one moment and read this beautiful list of accomplishments and all the things to come. And with that, just give us a chance to talk about The Way of Silken Stone, which is our anthology that she is the editor of. And again, just listen to some of the things that she's been up to since last we spoke, and talk about some of the fantastic stories that we've both been privileged to take a look at over the time of developing the story, and that we can't wait to get to you. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Miss Sheree Renée Thomas. Thank you, Sheree. Thank you so very much for your time this evening, and thank you as always for everything. So hope you're doing well.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
Uh,
And
I'm just going to give just a quick blurb to those who maybe are the first opportunity, and it will be a treat. So to that, you want to at least give some part of your quality bio here. So we have again our editor, Ms. Sheree Renée Thomas, who is an award-winning fiction writer, poet, and editor. Her work is inspired by myth and folklore, natural science, and Mississippi Delta conjure. Nine Bar Blues: Stories from an Ancient Future is her first all-prose collection, and she's also the author of two multi-genre hybrid collections, Sleeping Under the Tree of Life, longlisted as the 2016 Otherwise Award and honored with a Publishers Weekly starred review, and Shotgun Lullabies, where she's edited the world fantasy groundbreaking speculative fiction anthologies Dark Matter, and is the first to introduce W.E. Du Bois' science fiction short stories. A long list of other things I'm sure we could chat on, but again, we just want to welcome you. I think you are still in play from your time in DC with DisCon, if that's correct.
oh yeah, yeah,
So
a lot of public.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. So to that, before we get on with our campaign, how's that space been for you? I know that again you had a chance to co-host the Hugo Awards this year, and is of course what we're looking at with Sorghum Spear, being able to create these type of fantasies and spaces for ourselves. But just a quick glimpse into the real world as far as to where we're seeing the representation or opportunity therein for stories that like for stories like the ones that we're about to share here tonight. How's your outlook for the way that things are, or the way that things should be?
Well, the WorldCon was the 79th one.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding, the very first one took place where I am right now in New York City
Mm-hmm.
in 1939. It was happening at the same time as the New York World Fair was taking place. And there were about 200 people. And I think it started with fans in Philadelphia, and they were so excited and had such a good time that they had volunteers to do it the next
Mm-hmm.
year in another city, and a volunteer to do it after that. And they've been doing it ever since. Washington D.C. hosted this year's. Their con was called DisCon 3. So WorldCon is
Mm-hmm.
wherever in the world fans vote to have the
Mm-hmm.
next convention of all the science fiction and fantasy fans in the world that can get there. And then that each con that hosts it, whether it's, which city it's in or nation, they get to, make it customized according to their fandom community where they are. So Washington has hosted it 3 times. This was the third time. Um, it was pretty exciting. Little we were a little nervous because it was a hybrid convention,
Right.
so it was live and then also virtual, and then they've never really had to do the hybrid thing before. I
Mm-hmm.
think last year it was virtual to some extent. Well, I won't say that. They probably had to do it hybrid last year as well. Now that I think about it, I don't know. It's my first Worldcon, so period. So it was exciting. It was Andrea's first as well. It was good to meet people that I only know online in person. So they came out. That was amazing, and it was probably the most diverse that they've had in their 79-year history,
Mm-hmm.
because not only did they have us co-hosting the evening which was kind of historic, but they in a DC go-go band,
Nice, nice.
School of Arts, Radical Elite Drumline. So that was
Mm,
very, very cool. Brought back my youth of go-go music that took over the country um, for a while. And but they also had African programming that happened throughout the con. It was the first time the Nomo Awards was presented at a World Con, which I got to be a MC for that as well. Um, and we just had really great programming. And then we had some historic wins in terms of the awards. They don't tell us in advance, so
mm,
we're surprised like everyone else. And I want to say it's for me, and this is just no matter what the awards. I love it when people genuinely don't expect to win
mm,
and they do, and you get to see that surprise and shock and joy on their faces. And so that was cool to be able to be there in person to see Baya win for
nice.
best semi-pro zine that magazine. That was wonderful.
Mm,
Brent's speech was awesome. To see John Jennings and Damian Duffy win for adopting Octavia Butler's
mm,
her novel Parable of the Sword into a graphic novel. That was wonderful. Gina Prince Byfoot, director of the Old Guard,
mm.
I wasn't expecting them to win. So it's all the categories were really, really packed with amazing people. So it's like it's a win-win for whoever gets it, I guess. Um, but that was kind of cool.
Oh,
So yeah, and I
is
got
it,
to go to the museum, the Black History and Culture Museum. So I was like, yeah, you
that,
know,
that's a good double dose right there. I still haven't been.
yeah.
I still haven't been myself, and now the vote is already in that World Economy at in Chicago next year, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be. They do them 2 years in advance because it takes that long
Oh, well,
to
that
put
makes
on
sense
such
too.
a big production. They had 400, over 400 volunteers for this one.
Mm,
I never got the final count on how many people attended.
mm,
With the pandemic, it probably wasn't as big as the previous ones where they had 10,000 people, but
mm.
it felt like 10,000 people to me, given how that being in the public like that. There was a lot of people. But we were masked up. We took our COVID tests over and over again. Um, so I felt good about that. So
That's
yeah.
good. That's good. It sounds like a great time and great opportunity. And we always appreciate seeing you out and about representing and staying safe. For us in these spaces, not only with your time but also with your talent. Of which we're very excited for in the next 64 hours, where we look to be bringing things in with our newer anthology, Our
Yeah,
Way of Silk and
I'm
Stone.
so excited. I'm very, very proud of you. And I'm just
Um,
happy that the fundraiser was successful for you. So and you still rolling. So that's good.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's names like yours at the top that make this a lot easier lift than probably my talent could bring. But to that, we're again very excited to have you as again to help us steward
No,
this
I think it's the
program. So,
writers. I mean, yeah,
mm,
when it comes to an anthology,
mm,
a collection, it's the contributors that really make it special, and that's what we're all here for. Um, the people who are writing the stories that we're going to read. So we have for this anthology, we have a beautiful poem by Linda D. Addison, the Grandmaster of Poetry, and multiple Bram Stoker Award winner.
mm,
Just a wonderful, masterful poet. I was very fortunate to be able to work with her for the Carnegie Hall teen
mm,
Afrofuturism poetry workshop. She was fantastic, one of my special guests. So we're going to have the collection is blessed to have her work in it. And then we have short stories by Sarah Macklin and of course you, Valjean Jeffers,
mm,
Ogini Chowe, Donald Ekpeke, Colleen Anderson, Nicole Gibbons Kurtz, who is also a wonderful publisher, Mocha Memoirs
mm,
Press, Zelda Knight, who is also a wonderful publisher, and Ekpeke and Zelda are my co-editors on another project. Dean Manuel, whose work I wasn't very familiar with. Kanisha Williams, who's a wonderful writer. Daniel Hand, another writer that was new to me. Dominique Weldon. Violet L. Meyer, as well. J.S. Imwakpor. Sorry, it's been in my head but not out, so forgive me. Imwakpor, J.S. Imwakpor. Teresa Shao, Eugene Bacon, who's a fantastically prolific writer based in Australia, and Alicia McCullough. So, um, and the design is, of course, from you. And Daniel Coates helped put it together. And I cannot wait to hear more about this audio work that you're doing.
Oh yeah. So first off, absolutely agree and concur. The contributors have made this just a dream, right? So again,
And
being
we have
able
a
to
foreword by Nisi Shaw, so cannot forget
oh
that
absolutely.
as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and shout out also to let's see, Josephine Ruffin Sloan, who also helped with some of the when we speak of the language, I helped with some of the
Mhm.
visuals on that. So I want to give her propers as well. So yes, I thought the idea of all this amazing written work and the idea of making something that would also resonate would be like an audio type of language. Is that in at the end of the day? When I think of things like Game of Thrones and we have Dothraki, or Star Trek where we have Klingon, and I feel like when you get to that level where there's a language worth learning that helps and build that lore and world building, and there's always and also something that we can share among each other as not just fans but as collaborators and contributors, and thinking of the thousands of languages in within the diaspora that we could have picked and utilized and would have been some point of representation. I thought it would be fantastic to try and make something of our own. So this has been a project I've been working on for probably about 4 years. So I've been trying to do this for a long time, and had a chance to bring in some fellow linguists. My background was Japanese linguistics for a whole nother type of project. It served me well enough to know that I couldn't do it by myself. And so looking at Yoruba and Igbo and about three other different languages, a team of us came together and we built a living language. Something that if we put the time and talent to, we felt like could breathe a whole nother point of life into it. And then being able to bring in the audio work of let's see, this is Pep Squally, and want to give a shout out to Paula Wilson, who went through a lot of talent and found us a young lady there from the continent that not only could speak with such grace and power in just in contemporary English, but also could take this language completely made up and make it sound like it is something powerful and ancient and worthy. So that was something that I think we're about. Um, we about $400 from funding on this part, and so what we wanted to do in consideration of that and give something that could, in true speculative fiction form, be something real and imagined that could resonate off this project as well. So our contribution to that is to add in part of the dictionary as well as the world guide. And so
Mhm.
when you read these stories, there'll be some of these phrases and words that'll be in the book and give you a way to give that extra those hidden gems in those in the story. And of course, we already have that written into the graphic novel that we released earlier this year. So
So
a
tell
little.
me a little bit about this graphic novel because I know part of the inspiration was a very special person in the science fiction and fantasy genre. Can you talk
Oh, that's
about that?
that. Absolutely, absolutely. And let me thank Juanita for backing here. Ms. Nesbitt, we thank you and appreciate the support there.
Yay.
Yes, your note was that she backed it based on the premise, and yes, the premise, the real origin story of a lot of this stuff and a lot of the things that got me in not only the fantasy and science fiction, but I think just into the idea of speculative fiction, even as a young kid, would be the timeless Nichelle Nichols, who is not only the goddess of our world and the voice actress for the project that we had worked on prior with this, but she's lent her vision as well as her own words into helping us craft this world. And the idea of the way of silken stone is something that is kind of based off of like the duality that Miss Nichols, not only in her real world activism, but also just in strength and grace on the screen. Tried to make a thing that was a more of a moniker, but more of not just a moniker, but more of a way of life. The idea of being a warrior, but also being something of a resource or a resonance in something artistic or something creative. And so the idea was that the women of Sorghum and Spear, just like the example from Miss Nichols, there could be just such power that could be just an eruption, but at the same time, just in a stillness also, and the way that the coarseness of stone and the softness and suppleness of silk, could be the representation of these women, the Amfre, who are her daughters and who are the protagonists and antagonists of these stories.
Mhm.
And so, wanting to find a way to try to not only honor that, but also our overarching message that sisterhood is the real superpower of Sorghum and Spear. So it's the many ways that these relationships between young girls and women, between mothers and daughters, between friend and foe, all that have some point of relation under the All Mother, are are the things that drive this fantastic narrative and bring these stories to life.
And you got a chance to see Miss Nichols very recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. I had a pleasure to go to her at LA Comic Con about a couple of weeks ago. She did have her final appearance in retirement party, and though I did not get all of my books and things that I had as planned for a evening with her, I did get a chance to see her, and she was in fantastic spirits, was well taken care of, and happy to say that we even had a chance to see her dance her way to her retirement, which was fantastic,
Oh,
and at least got a chance to share with her the graphic novel in its completion, and obviously look forward to bringing this book as another part of that legacy that she's been so gracious to lend her time and talents towards. And
yeah,
so,
she
yeah.
looked beautiful and happy. That was very cool to see
Oh,
her.
absolutely, absolutely. So, like all of us, there've been so many things that's gone on over the years, particularly these past couple of years since the pandemic. So to see her in that space and surrounded by love and by fans and doing the thing that, as she said, she was put here to do, absolutely was a privilege.
Excellent.
Yeah. And so to that, I think the privilege has definitely been mine of being able to read these stories since we've been able to make the first call out for this project. And so, of course, looking at the way that we could look to bring the language and the other parts around, as you said earlier, it is these fantastic stories that have given us really a real world that we can look at now and say that it's got it's a life of its own. And as a creator, that's always been a goal, is to find a way in a space to have new voices in contemporary fantasy, particularly with Black women protagonists and storylines, to find a way that could work completely separate of myself. And so I feel like bringing the first book into play is absolutely a part of that. So just for a few moments, I'd like to get some of your insights as our editor to any of the stories or any of the storylines that maybe stick out to you, or again, just in your general sense of how the collection looks overall. Let it get some of your points there.
I think if you are a reader who you read for character, which is one of the things that I do, I love
Mhm.
stories that really make the people seem fully, realized and three-dimensional, then you're going to get stories that are intersectional here. They're not just the one, one representation of love or one representation of family. You're going to see different examples of love in couples and family, those dynamics between siblings, between lovers, between possible lovers, and between the generations. So that's one thing that I think is really great. The action is really good. I can tell that the writers, the contributors spend a lot of time to try to make the stories reflect I guess, the movement and the energy of the graphic
Mhm.
novel that was already, kind of in the works. To me, they're very visual works, so hopefully they'll be adapted some kind of way in motion because they're I felt like I was out in the fields with them training, or out out fighting, the demonic forces or what have you. It was a lot of active action in that. The other thing I think that's really good, the stories that stood out for me, the ones where the writers took time with the voice in terms of how they tell us the story. So there's a kind of I feel like I'm listening to an ancient tale in a way in some of the stories. They kind of gather around and here, I'm going to tell you the story of this faraway place. But also, there's a kind of lyricism in the writing as well. So that's enjoyable. I will not tell you my favorite stories because that's going to be a subjective thing. We hope to hear that from you as readers. What are your favorite stories and why? Because each story that's in the collection, they have very different, unique strengths and things that they're trying to do in there. So I feel like there's something for everyone. That is our hope when you do a collection, that there is, you hit these different beats and rhythms that will resonate with different kinds of readers. But I think the main thing, if you want to be outside of the United States, outside of like kind of a contemporary world, but into a place that is wholly realized in terms of its own culture, its own values, its own history, its own architecture, even. Some of the stories actually took time to kind of let us, fill out where they are and everything, their own ecology. Then this is one of those stories for you. Earlier, we were talking about how there aren't that many, if I can't really think of any actually genuinely Black created Afrofuturistic games and things, right?
Right.
um, or, or worlds. Um, there aren't that many that are interactive, right? I think there's some things in the works, but not out there. But of course, this world is very much open, and I think it's full of potential in terms of mining certain plot lines from some of the stories and creating an interactive world for people. Once they finish reading the stories, learning the language,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we'll have some music.
Okay. Oh,
Who knows?
that's true. That's true. Working on that. Absolutely.
Maybe have some music to go along with it. I'm also kind of curious if there people will be out cosplaying,
You
because if
know,
you
I we've
right,
had
if you
a,
like the Dora Milaje from the Black Panther world and from Wakanda, then we got something else for you too to enjoy as well. So
absolutely, absolutely. I think I've been privileged to have a couple of cosplays of our core book before. And again, I think once we see these new characters and to your point with the description and the way that all these stories are so unique and have something for everyone, I'm sure there'll be some new characters that we'll be able to bring to the forefront. And then ideally, visually and audibly be able to expand on this as well. And I think it's very appropriate to think forward into that game space or into the metaverse space, which is definitely something that is in the books. To not in the books, but in how should we say? It's a point of interest. I don't want to set over it. Yeah,
okay.
point of interest for sure. So yeah, so I think it's the right way to say that's very astute and something maybe more to come. So to that,
It's always full of good news.
no, it's just such an honor to be able to look at this from the times of where we talked to this and again being able to bring this level of talent to a first anthology is just again humbling, but at the same time very excited for our readers and those who've been so supportive of all of us throughout, to have this as a ideally as a sustainable platform as soon as we get this. And again, want to give thanks to Outlet Entertainment, who came in and felt strong enough about the project to help to print and distribute. So knowing that we've got a way for these stories to truly get out and be on the shelves, along with any type of book, is also encouraging. And so to that, I know that you've given us some great time, some great insights already. I just want to give you a final thanks and consideration. If there's anything else in your heart and mind to say, I want to give you some rest. I know how it is post con, so I don't want to hold you too long tonight. But you
Thank
have given
you.
us some great points to think about, not only for the way that these anthologies ideally are set, but
Mhm.
again, what we can work towards and expect for the harvest of the All Mother, and also for the Way of Silk and Stone, for these stories to really be something of a legacy project. So with that, I'll ask if there's anything else on your mind in regards to either this campaign or in some.
Yeah, I would just want to say there's, little over 2 days left, right? To support the campaign. If you have already, thank you. We appreciate it. I know that our writers and artists and everyone behind the scenes appreciates that. If you could signal boost it, that would be great as well. It's important to support small presses, independent presses, and creators. If you have a chance, please follow all of the contributors to the collection on their social media, and also look for their other work as well, so you can get a little insight on their writing styles and voices, so that you can be prepared for the wonderful book they've created for you. So, but thank you so much. Thank you.
And Sheree, thank you so very much for you and your example, and for creating the space to have these type of conversations, and giving so much of yourself, and again in your time and talents. It is appreciated.
Thank
And,
you.
and with
People
that,
help me, so I try to help others. I have
um,
great people who helped me, encourage me when I didn't always feel like I could do it. So I try to help and support others as well. Thank
you,
you.
no, thank you. I appreciate you. And with that, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and close this out again. As we say, we'll drop the link in the chat one last time.
Happy
But with that, yeah,
holidays.
absolutely. The happiest of holidays to everybody. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. We thank you as always for your love and support of Sorghum Spear, as well as us and our contributors to this fantasy series of Sword and Soul. So with that, please stay safe, wash your hands, and please enjoy the holidays with your loved ones. And with that, we got 63 hours left with our Kickstarter Sorghum and Spear, The Way of Silk and Stone. Our anthology is coming soon. Thank you so very much, and have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
This is the stretch goals, right? We're on the
It's the
stretch
stretch
goal.
goal. Yeah, so we're stretch goaling it right now.
Yay. The fun part.
And thank you so much, Juanita. We appreciate you specifically. Thank you so very much. Take care.
Bye bye.